You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly Dobbly podcast. And on the podcast, we have started a new series on the podcast looking at associate nations within cricket and how they are developing the game in their country. And many of us cricket fans know so much about the established cricketing countries and not enough on the associate nations who play cricket. So it would be nice to learn more about those associate countries. And via the podcast, people can also learn more as well. For today's Associate Cricket Series episode, we are discussing all things Mexico cricket. Joining me to discuss and talk all things Mexico cricket is the Secretary of the Mexico Cricket Association, Craig White. Craig, welcome.
Hello, Jack. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for the invitation. And just to clarify, yes, my name is Craig White, but I'm not that Craig White, the Test cricketer. And as you rightly said, I'm the Secretary, but I'm the Secretary of the Mexico Cricket Federation, not association.
Well, that's good to know that you put me in my place. There we go there. But anyway, thank you, Craig, for joining us to talk about Mexico cricket. And I'm really looking forward to our chat. And I'm sure everyone is looking forward to our chat as well, to learn more about Mexico cricket, because it's not something you associate with Mexico and cricket, but the two do go together and doing some good stuff over there. But before we talk about that, Craig, as I do with all my guests, I like to take them back to when they first got into cricket. And it's been fascinating listening to people's memories and recollections on how they got into the game. So, Craig, let's go back to the very beginning. Growing up, what were your earliest memories of watching, playing, and even going to the cricket? And who were some of the cricketing idols that you looked up to in the game?
Well, it's funny, Jack. So when I was younger, I didn't actually like cricket. I got into cricket by accident during the 2005 Ashes. And I just stumbled across that epic Test series by accident and got hooked. And that's where my sort of passion, my love for cricket came from. But when I was growing up, I didn't actually like it. It's just from that series, that's what sort of hooked me into cricket.
Yeah. Do you play cricket yourself now in Mexico, or?
I've been the secretary since 2017. In 2017, I did play for the national team, but again, that was by accident. We were going to the South American Championships in Buenos Aires, and I was only supposed to be the tour manager, but a lot of visas got refused, which meant we ended up traveling with 10 players, 11 if you include me. So I had to play to make up the numbers. I made 0 not out against Uruguay, and I took a catch at mid-wicket to dismiss the Argentine captain. So I actually played for the national team without having played any cricket sort of in Mexico or cricket in England or anywhere. I'm mainly just sort of like a cricket fan, Jack. I'm not a player. I'm just a guy who just loves the sport.
Yeah, no, I think that's everyone can relate to that. I think either you're a lover of the game and you don't play and you just want to watch it and be involved in it, or you want to get in and play it yourself. So everyone has a different cricketing journey and cricket background. So that was nice to hear your journey into cricket, Craig. I thought to start this interview on Mexico cricket today, Craig, let's talk about the history of cricket in Mexico, because you can learn a lot about cricket from its history. And the history of cricket in Mexico is quite interesting. And so, Craig, give us a brief overview on the history of Mexico cricket, because, as I said, it's very fascinating.
Yep. So we are sort of coming up to our 200th season of cricket in Mexico. Our first club that was established back in 1827, and that was called the Mexico Union Cricket Club. So cricket arrived in Mexico like 20 years before baseball and about 50 years before football, and it's been played since then. So during the 1800s, especially in the 1860s, we have a famous photo of the Emperor of Mexico playing cricket. And then as we move into the 1870s, 80s and 90s, cricket underwent sort of a bit of a boom in Mexico. A lot of British and Australians and New Zealanders and Canadians, they arrived in Mexico to work on, various infrastructure projects on the mines, the banking, the railways, and the oil industry and things like that. And in the 1900, our first Mexico Cricket Association was established, and we also established our first cricket championship. That was a 5-team league, and that was the first organized national sports league in Mexico. And then we move into the sort of the First World War. Cricket sort of died a bit because at the same time as the First World War, the Mexican Revolution broke out. So a lot of, most of the British in Mexico who sort of supported the sport here, they left Mexico for safety or to fight in the First World War. And I'm writing a book on the history of Mexico cricket, and as part of it, I've discovered that quite a lot of our cricketers, they fought for the British Army in the First World War. Then after the First World War, cricket hung on a bit. Then we moved into the Second World War. Cricket totally disappeared, and then it was revived in the 1960s. And since then, it's just been growing little by little.
It's very interesting to hear you say that about the history of Mexico cricket. And I suppose that's the same with all countries around the world, especially with the associate nations, that they have a long connection and association with cricket going way, way back, do they?
Yeah, that's correct. That's definitely correct. I would perhaps suggest that Mexico is one of the oldest cricket playing nations, but for various reasons, it didn't take root in Mexico. And it's only in the last couple of years or so we've started to grow the game and to develop, and we're bringing more Mexicans into the game. Just because up in during the 1800s and up until the Second World War, a very small British community, they sustained cricket. There was only a few thousand Brits here. They sustained cricket. They had no interest in sort of developing, sharing cricket, and the only Mexicans that took to the game back then were the Mexican elites, and not the majority of the population.
Yeah. So that was quite fascinating hearing you talk about the history of Mexico cricket there, Craig, and I'm sure everyone has learned a bit more about the history of it. And we'll want to do some further research after listening to our chat today, because it's, as I said, it's quite interesting, quite fascinating. I thought for our next topic, Craig, we talk about the Mexico national cricket teams, the women's and the men's teams.
Yeah,
it'd be good to gain your insights on the two teams and learn more about their achievements, the players, their stories, and their backgrounds, because many of them come from diverse backgrounds and upbringings. So for Craig, for those who may not know a lot about the Mexico men's and women's teams, can you tell us a bit more about them, the players, and some of their stories?
Yep. So as regard, the first one's our women's team. So we formed our women's team back in 2017, and they played in the 2018 and 2019 South American Championships. And they also played in the 2019 Central American Championships. And our women's team is all Mexican, and we have women who have sort of joined us from tennis, from American football, from golf and football. And now some of our women's players, such as Ana Sesi, they are starting to take more leadership roles in Mexico cricket, and they are sort of taking the initiative to sort of develop cricket at a grassroots level, because they didn't know what cricket was, but when they found out, when they started playing, they fell in love with the game, and they also want to sort of develop the sport among Mexicans. And for our men's team, we have a pretty strong men's team. So our men's team is made up of majority expats who have been sort of living and playing in Mexico for years, and our men's team do consistently well at the Central American and the South American championships. And we have one guy, you may have heard of him. He's Mexican. He's called Luis Amida. He plays club cricket in Australia.
Yep. Wow, that's good to know. That Mexico cricket has a lot of connections around the world, and a lot of people come from different backgrounds and wanting to play for the national teams, which is fantastic.
But what we do want to do, we are a big family here, and the people who are eligible to play for the national team can play. But what we are trying to do is bring more Mexicans through and set up pathways programs to hopefully have more Mexicans playing in the men's national team in the future. But like many associates, it's difficult when you have very limited resources and you rely on volunteers.
Yeah, that's the main challenge with the associate countries, is that resources and funding, and trying to get the facilities to improve their cricket. So with the national teams, what's on the horizon for them? What's in store for them in the coming years or months in terms of tournament?
For the women's team, that sort of fell away a bit during the pandemic. So we are in the process of rebuilding the women's team. For the men's team, in April next year, we have the Central American Championships coming up in Costa Rica, and then in October we have the South American Championships in Brazil. And all of those games will be official T20Is.
Yeah, that's good to hear there. Do you think that the teams will get to play more cricket in the future as they continue to develop and grow and get better? Do you think you'll see more fixtures scheduled for?
I think we will, because domestically our men's cricket is growing. And we are now in the threshold to play in the ICC Americas Regional World T20 qualifiers. So I do feel that the men's team will have more fixtures coming up in the future. And also we are trying to. The Central American Championships and the South American Championships are great, but what we are trying to do is organise more bilateral series around those tournaments, so the guys play more games and they can start to move up the ICC rankings. Because at the moment, for the Central American Championships and the South American, we only play maybe 4 or 5 T20Is a year over a weekend. So we are trying to sort of do more bilaterals to increase the fixture list. And we also want to host more tournaments in Mexico as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What about the women's team? You're looking to get more fixtures, bilaterals, as you said?
We don't really. During the pandemic, the women's team sort of fell away and we lost a lot of players. So we are in the process of rebuilding the women's team and getting the numbers back up again. But the good thing is, which we can talk about later, is that we have introduced cricket into the second largest university in Mexico. So we are planning, like over the coming years, when that project gets more advanced, we'll have more women coming through to build a new national team.
That's good to hear that. And good to hear your insights on the players and the teams themselves. Craig, let's talk about the growth and development of cricket within Mexico in terms of getting cricket into local communities, clubs, schools, grassroots, etc. Because that's one of the challenges that many associate nations face is the trying to get the game into their local communities, and that's easier said than done. Having access to facilities, nets, people to access them to go and play a game of cricket in their area, getting cricket into schools, and making cricket accessible to everyone in their local community. So the association and the Federation of Cricket in Mexico, these are some of the challenges that they have to try and overcome and make sure cricket prospers in Mexico. So Craig, what are the challenges does Mexico cricket have in trying to grow and develop the game in the Mexican community? And do you see cricket becoming a mainstream sport in Mexico anytime soon?
Well, in answer to your first question is the challenges are that we are sort of a volunteer-run organisation. So we are trying to grow and develop cricket on top of our daytime jobs. And as much as we love cricket, we have to earn a living. So we do what we can and when we can. And on top of that, we only have very limited financial resources. So there is sort of very little, we have very little money to spend on development.
Yeah.
And the other challenge is, you're trying to raise the profile of cricket in a country that, it's not a cricket playing country. It's not a cricket playing country. Mexico, cricket has been played here for 200 years. Yes, that's true, but it's not a cricket playing country. So the challenges are one of, relying on volunteers, having limited financial resources, and trying to sort of raise the profile of invisible sport. However, all is not lost, and I do think cricket is going to start growing in Mexico because we are now a cricket federation. What does that mean? So we are part of the Mexican government, and for the last 2 years we have been working with the Mexican Sports Ministry on various cricket development projects. This year we introduced cricket into 4 prisons in Mexico City, 2 women's prisons, 2 men's prisons, and we introduced cricket into a female federal model prison. And alongside that, in September, we had a training event for professors from the National Polytechnic Institute, which is the second largest university in Mexico. And those teachers will be teaching cricket to their students. And alongside that, we have just won a $20,000 grant from a local Mexican foundation to develop our institutional structures and to scale up a small social project that we have running. This year, we started to teach cricket in Mexico City to children from poorer areas in association with Street Child and Football Mass. I don't know if you've seen it, but this year we sent a Mexico kids team to play at the Street Child World Cup. These kids are from low-income households and poorer backgrounds, as it were. And we sent this team of kids to represent Mexico in India just before the ICC World Cup. And the kids, they played England. Would you believe they played England? They played Zimbabwe, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Rwanda. The kids came back and they loved it. And some of those kids have become community leaders, and they in turn are teaching cricket to other kids. And we are starting to expand this project into new areas. So it'll take time, but I do feel that eventually we have the numbers coming through. It's not something that will happen immediately, but we are sort of taking the long-term view And if we keep putting the work in, the yards in, we'll get there.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear that. Do the kids enjoy it and want to keep coming back and want to keep playing cricket?
Well, from what I've heard, the kids do love the cricket because it's something totally different to them. It's a sport where they all play, they all have a bat, they all have a ball, they all have a bit of a field. It's not like football where, you can just very often not do much, but in cricket, everyone participates. It doesn't matter how good you are. It's for everybody. And it's also a chance to them to learn about new cultures like England, Australia, India, and we are starting to integrate these kids into the wider Mexico cricket setup.
Yeah, that's
and also,
fantastic.
Sorry, Jack. And also so I mentioned that we have cricket in women's 4 prisons in Mexico City, 2 men and 2 women. And the feedback we've received from that is that the women prisoners, they absolutely love it. It's something they look forward to. It's teaching them sort of discipline, how to respect the rules. It's exercise for them. They can all participate, and it's it's a way for them to spend time with their friends in prison. And some of them have expressed an interest of when they leave prison, they want to join Mexico cricket as well. And also some of the kids of these prisoners have also expressed an interest in playing cricket as well. And what the government wants to do, they want to start like inter-prison cricket tournaments.
Yeah, wow, that's very interesting. Taking cricket into prisons, obviously people who have obviously done bad things and wrong things in their life, which people often get into. But I suppose cricket has given them an opportunity to sort of start their rehabilitation back into the community, or
yes, exactly,
involved in some sort of sport.
Exactly, yeah, you said it exactly right. What the government wants to do, they want to sort of certify these prisoners with some sort of qualification which they can use when they go back into their communities when they are eventually released.
Well, that's fantastic. That's fantastic what you're doing over there in terms of helping broader society, in terms of getting people who have done bad things back on track. And cricket is doing that. Do you take cricket around the country or different parts of the country? Because Mexico is quite a big country, so there's a lot to cover. Do you get out there and do some clinics and training?
We do, yes. So perhaps like unlike other associates that are maybe just based in one city, here in Mexico we have cricket in 3 of the 4 largest cities in the country. We have cricket in Mexico City. We have 6 men's teams here. We have a kids team, and we have women playing. We are also in Querétaro. We have 3 men's teams there, and we're also in Guadalajara. We have 3 men's teams there, and we have some women playing there. And in these 3 cities, we do run clinics, we do run workshops, and we do try to go into local schools to develop cricket.
Yeah. Do you have some sort of domestic competition in Mexico, like local clubs play against each other, like you do in England and Australia?
So each of the cities, Mexico City, they have their own league. Guadalajara, they have their own league. Querétaro, they have their own league. And the best players from those domestic teams in the 3 cities, they form state-level teams. And the state-level teams, they do interstate tours like every couple of months.
Yep.
And then on top of that, every year, we have a national championship. It's great fun. It's a great event. It's the one time a year where the whole Mexico cricket family comes together. The state-level teams of Mexico City, Querétaro, Guadalajara, we all come together in one weekend, one place, to play T20 cricket. and to determine the national champion of cricket in Mexico.
That's
And it's
great.
because of that, having the men having more games, more structured, having more structured competition, that has improved the men's team, and the level of the men's team has improved. And that is why, if you look at the historical results at the South American and Central American Championships, Mexico men have steadily improved, because we have a structured, organized, growing male setup here.
Yeah, and that's very important to build that consistency and development into the in the men's team to hopefully improve and get better. Isn't that right?
Exactly. And now what we're trying to do, but again, it's difficult when you've got volunteers and limited resources. We are developing sort of like a kids junior pathway program to give these kids sort of a route into the men's local teams, then the state level team, and then the national team.
Yeah, fantastic. What about women's cricket? Do you see a lot of girls play cricket, take up the game in Mexico compared to the boys? Is there an increased number? That's a bit of a challenge.
No, you're all right in what you say. For some reason, it's been easier for us, if that's the word, to attract Mexican women to cricket rather than Mexican men to cricket, although we do have some Mexican men playing. I don't know what the reason is, but that has been easier to attract women to the game. No, wow. Perhaps because here football is it's the king, but among women, there's not too many sporting options. Cricket maybe presents an alternative to like basketball and baseball and football. I don't know. I'm just sort of thinking out loud.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it? You just can't put your finger on it and work out what's the reason. So But from what I'm hearing from you is that you're doing some good work over there and trying to grow and develop the game.
I would like to think so. We're doing the best we can. Everybody involved in Mexico cricket, everybody cares. Everybody's dedicated, and they just want the best for Mexican cricket. We are stewards of the game here, and our responsibility is to leave it in a better state than what we found it.
That's right. I couldn't agree more with that. Have you looked at different countries and learnt from them in terms of how to go about structuring cricket domestically? Have you talked to anyone else around the cricketing world?
Yeah, we do. And you've probably heard about Matt Featherston on Brazil and the fantastic work he is doing there with their women's team and their junior setup. And we are trying to learn from Matt and follow the Brazilian model in the Mexican context. And also we have Argentina. They've got a great setup. They have age group cricket, they've got men's and women's teams, loads of clubs, and that's another model that we look at and we try to learn from.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Obviously, you mentioned that football's king over there in Mexico, and most people associate Mexico with football or soccer, depends where you're from and how you call it. So do you, it goes back to my question that I asked before, do you think it will become a mainstream sport, or do you think it will take time? Are you optimistic about that, or do you think it will just be in the background?
I am optimistic for Mexico cricket. It will never overtake football, and it will never overtake baseball here. We know that, and it's not something that we want to do anyway. We want to be sort of realistic in our aims of where we're going. Mexico has a population of 130 million, and even if cricket is just offered as like an alternative sport to football and to baseball, it's still a huge market and still a huge demographic to tap into.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of challenges there. But I suppose baseball, in terms of comparing that with cricket, it's very similar. So have you got a lot of people that play baseball get interested in cricket because of the similarities between the two sports? Have you noticed?
Yeah, we do. So one of our women's players, I always remember her. She's called Anne Julie. She's a pretty high level athlete in Mexico. She's represented Mexico internationally in various sports. And I always remember watching her bat. She always adopted a baseball stance at the crease, and also when she was bowling as well, she always adopted a baseball stance. But when she was bowling, even though she had like a baseball stance, she still got a lot of speed, a lot of bounce on the ball.
Yeah,
and we have a few blokes as well who have come to us from baseball as well. We also have some girls who have represented Mexico at a high level in baseball. They're playing cricket as well. And like you say, they all remark how sort of similar the concepts are.
Yeah.
But again, at this stage, we don't try to sort of change batting styles or bowling styles. They just bat and bowl how they want. The main thing is they enjoy it and it works for them and it's effective.
That's right. I suppose that's one of the things in cricket is that if a player plays a certain way, don't try and change that. Embrace how they play the game, because if it's comfortable for them and that's how they want to go about their batting or bowling with a different action or technique, then let them go.
So remember, with Anne Julie, she was always 6 or out, so she could either get out straight away or she'll hang around and just hit sixes.
Yeah, that's for sure. Another question I had is umpires, which are an important part of cricket. What's the umpiring? Because I'm an umpire myself, Craig, and it's such an important role in the game. What's that like in Mexico in terms of the umpiring ranks? Do you have a lot of people that are qualified umpires or looking to become a match official?
We have sort of 2 qualified umpires, and the rest of the umpires are just sort of people who they know the game, they have a understanding of the laws of cricket, and they know what's what, but they don't have any qualification. Mainly just the umpires are volunteers.
Yeah,
who know the game but aren't necessarily qualified, as it were. And also with our coaches, we don't have any trained coaches. We just sort of just do our best to teach cricket.
Yeah, with the limited resources you have. Which is a big challenge as we've talked about. But is that something that you want to?
And also as well, here there's not a lot of resources in Spanish. So if you want to grow the game, you've got to do cricket in Spanish, the local language. Is very few. Well, people know English, but Spanish is the language here, and you have to do it in Spanish because there's that famous phrase, right? I think it was the German car manufacturer. If I want to buy something from you, I'll speak in your language, but if you want to buy from me, you speak in my language, or something like that. But anyway, I guess the key point is that we have to develop materials, teaching and training in Spanish if we want to massify cricket in Mexico.
Yes, that is a big challenge, the language barrier, as you said.
Well, we know Spanish, but perhaps cricket is not the easiest of sports to translate into Spanish.
Yeah. I can imagine trying to translate cricket into Spanish. Absolute nightmare. Trying to explain how this game works. So with that being said, have you talked to the ICC about are they helping Mexico cricket out? Obviously, are they in contact with you and trying to help you guys out?
Yeah, no, we are, and we have a very good relationship with ICC Americas, with Farah and Andrea and Esteban McDermott. They do provide help and support to us. They're always on hand to give advice and provide materials in Spanish, and sort of they always invite us to coaching and umpiring courses. They're always very interested in what we're up to and things like that. So they do a lot for us.
Yeah, that's good to hear that you're getting that support from the governing body, which is fantastic in terms of helping you develop as an associate nation. Do other countries tour Mexico in terms of playing cricket over there, like coming for games?
Yep. So in 2019, here, Mexico City, we hosted the Central American Championships between Mexico men, Panama men, Costa Rica men, Belize men, and the MCC. They came over as well to play in that. We also had Costa Rica women and Mexico women. In 2021, we hosted the ICC Women's Americas Regional World Cup T20 World Cup qualifier between the US, Canada, Argentina, and Brazil. We've also had a number of touring teams from the US. The Hollywood Golden Oldies, they've been here from California, and Hoboken from New York have been here as well. So Mexico is a pretty popular sort of destination for touring teams because the image of playing cricket in Mexico and all of that.
Yeah. In terms of that was another question, Craig, that I wanted to ask you, is about the grounds. What type of cricket grounds that you have in Mexico? Because that's
so we have 3 grounds. So in Mexico City, we have the Reformer Athletic Club. That is the oldest sports club in Mexico, founded in 1894. It is the second highest turf wicket in the world. We've got a turf wicket there. We've got 2 nets. In Querétaro, we play at the Viñedos polo field, and that is big enough to hold 2 games side by side because it's like a massive polo field. That's also a turf wicket. And in Guadalajara, we play at the University of Guadalajara. We have a turf wicket there, and we're also installing nets.
Yeah, that's good to hear that you have those main grounds in Mexico, which is fantastic. Have you ever done exchange programs with your players to go to other countries and learn cricket that way? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever done?
We would love to do it. We would love to do it, but it just comes back to having no resources to do it.
Yeah. Have other countries offered to do that?
Some of the countries in the Caribbean, they are sort of interested in doing some sort of exchange with us.
Well, that's good to hear.
Around men's cricket and high level men's cricket to improve sort of playing standards and skills.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So that's fantastic. Just hearing you there, Craig, talk about
we also have been invited to the US as well on a few occasions to sort of play sort of local teams there.
Well, that's great. That's fantastic. It's good to see that other cricketing countries are willing to help, and that's what cricket should be, I suppose, helping each other out, which we tend to lose sight of these days, because cricket is a game for all, and we've got to help each other out. So that's good. It's good to hear you say that, and it's good to know that other cricket teams are doing that to help Mexico out. But just hearing you say about the programs and all that stuff, that's really good stuff. And long may that continue, and hopefully get people into the sport in Mexico, which is fantastic. Craig, I thought to end our discussion today, I thought we talk about what the future holds for Mexico cricket. It's very hard to predict the future, as we know. Anything can happen. But Craig, how do you see the future of cricket in Mexico, and how do you see the future of associate cricket as well, going well into the future?
Well, for Mexico cricket, I do feel that we are going to sort of keep growing and keep developing, and Mexicans will start coming into cricket over the next few years because of all the sort of hard yards and work we've done behind the scenes with the Mexican government, with the Polytechnic Institute, and with our sort of social development program. So it'll take time, but I do feel we will have Mexicans coming through in the future, and we will be able to establish age level cricket and have a good number of kids playing, a good number of schools playing, and universities playing. And I think that as a result, our national teams will get stronger. And for associate cricket, I think associate cricket is absolutely brilliant. I do feel that associate cricket will keep growing. It's great news that the T20 World Cup, that's gone up to 20 teams, and the ODI World Cup, that's gone up to 14 teams. And success stories like Uganda and Namibia just show you the potential that we have and what can be done if we are given the opportunity and we keep working.
That's right. If you keep working hard, and who knows, you could be at a world event, an ICC event, maybe a T20 World Cup, maybe.
I also think as well that for associates, the fact that cricket is going to be in the Olympics is it's quite literally a game changer. So I remember last month when it was announced that cricket would be in the Olympics, the Mexican government, who know nothing about cricket or very little about cricket, immediately they started asking about the Olympics and how what do we do to get there. And we also had a lot of news agencies and TV programs and shows getting in touch with us for interviews to know about the Olympics and cricket. So I do think cricket being Olympics will be just a game changer for us, not only because of the the increased visibility presence of cricket, it will also unlock a bit more funding for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose whenever it's the Olympics, governments will put a lot of money and funding into it because it's a world event, the Olympics.
Yep, and here, the Olympics and the Pan American Games, they are huge, and when they're on, they're always on the TV.
Yep.
And all we want to see is just Mexicans watching cricket at the Olympics and going, I fancy trying that.
Yes, that's
because
right.
it's visible, it's there.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I discussed.
I guess in my experience, in Mexico cricket, I found Mexicans have always been talented at cricket. They have a talent for cricket and they're good at it. We just have to make it visible, because once the players that we have, once they've seen cricket, they've really taken to the game and fallen in love with it. And I just think if we make it more visible, we can increase our reach.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I discussed with Andrew Nixon on the previous episode of this Associate Cricket series. We did talk about cricket in the Olympics and how will it benefit associate nations, even if they're not playing in the competition itself.
Exactly, it's the fact that it's on TV, and whether you're in Mexico or Peru or Costa Rica, knowing that your country has a cricket federation or has some cricket that you can get involved in after seeing it on TV is just massive.
Yeah, as you said, it's definitely going to benefit associate cricket going into the future. So let's hope going into the future, Craig, that Mexico cricket can continue to grow and develop in both women's and men's cricket.
No, we will, and I'm told we will keep growing and we keep developing. It's hard when you rely on volunteers and you have limited resources, but we've come so far in the last 5 or 6, 7 years that I've been involved, and we've just got to keep going. and the results are coming through. It just takes time. You've got to stay the course. We've taken the long-term vision to develop the game and bring Mexicans in, but it just takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. We just got to stay the course and keep at it.
That's right, and keep the belief, and you get there one day. Which is
we will get there one day. I'm convinced of that. Mexico is my I love cricket. Mexico is my home. It has been since 2011, and I just want to see cricket, which has given me so much joy and happiness. I just want to share that with Mexicans so they can enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, Craig.
I do believe that cricket is a force for positive change in society as well. And that's my way and our way of contributing to Mexican society and leaving a legacy.
That's right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, and I think many people would agree with that as well. And let's hope that is the case in Mexico, and the game continues to grow and develop and prospers in Mexico, because you're doing some good stuff and you're getting there. It's just all about the course, believing that you can do it, which many associate nations often are in that same boat. It's just sticking at it. It may seem far away, but you can get there. You can reach the top. Look at the other associate nations that have come through. And have gone to world events and have done well on the world stage in cricket. So
of course you always need money. But there's a lot of things you can achieve by just having a really committed, dedicated team.
Yeah, people who are passionate, people who care, and people who just want to, promote cricket in Mexico or any other associate nation, which you're doing, and what we've got from other countries as well. So, let's hope that the future looks bright, and let's hope cricket continues to grow in all parts of the world, which it is. And many countries that you wouldn't associate playing cricket are playing cricket.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Thank you, Craig, for joining me for this Associate Cricket Series episode today.
Always a pleasure.
Discuss all things Mexico cricket with you. I've learned a lot in our chat, and I'm sure people have as well, listening or watching. Craig, if people want to get in touch with you or Mexico cricket or anything else, where can they do that? Where can they find you? Where can they find Mexico cricket?
Yep. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, or on Twitter. Our Facebook account has sort of 44,000 followers. You can contact us via that on Instagram and Twitter, and also you can get in touch with me at secretary@mexicocricket.org, or through our website as well. I'm always very happy to talk about Mexico cricket and provide information about anybody who's interested. And we're a family. We are an inclusive family. We are welcoming, and everybody's always welcome in Mexico cricket. It's a space for everyone. It doesn't matter how good you are, how old you are. Mexico cricket is for everybody, and everybody's welcome.
I couldn't agree more with that, Craig. Well said. And we'll leave links to that in the description of this episode for people to check out and get in touch if they want to. Before we go, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Also, the podcast is available on Anchor, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Once again, thank you, Craig, for joining me to discuss all things Mexican cricket. And I hope all of you watching or listening to this Associate Cricket Series episode learned a lot about cricket in Mexico from Craig. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.